Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps. The war in Sudan has killed 2 million people and displaced a further 4 million. The peace agreement signed between the government and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement on January 9, 2005 has finally given hope that peace and recovery might come to a country so ravaged by war. Fundamental issues, however, remain outstanding: ethnic and religious questions and the principal problem of autonomy for the South in 6 years' time. To give us a better understanding of this post-war Sudan, let's look now at the history of this war that has ravaged the country for more than 2 decades.
When the government soldiers came and attacked our village, they killed many people. So I had to seek shelter in Ethiopia. There was no transport. We used to eat leaves from trees and meat that we hunted. We walked for 3 months, and for the first time in our lives we had no bread. We slept in a forest full of mosquitoes. Most dramatically, though, local people killed some of us.
There is a war that has lasted for almost 20 years and has cost 3 million lives. It is a war of contrasts: Arab against black, Muslim against Christian, North against South. It is a war fought on many fronts, from the battlefields of the southern swamps to the Islamic re-education schools in Khartoum. It is a war in which international interests hang in the balance, whilst people confront famine, slavery and death. It is a war shrouded in a veil of silence.
Reasons of war brought me to Khartoum. My father died, so I was left alone, a young girl with younger brothers. I decided to escape with the others when our village was destroyed. We walked for a long time and our feet became swollen. We walked with sticks, carrying children on our shoulders for 4 days. For us, hunger was like a disease. Our home was destroyed and burned. The rebels took our cows. We walked from Avail on foot to a place called Kir, and then we took the train to Khartoum. Now my husband is very sick.
We Dinkas are poor, but God, our Lord, always protects us. In 1986, on May the 5th, I took my family into the bush, where we spent 15 days under the trees. We had to leave everything, all our clothes, shoes, everything. I had to save my family from the army. When we arrived in Khartoum, I was jobless and could only pray to God to give us our daily meal. Had the Arab soldiers not come to the south, I would not have come here, but they did. And when they came, they found our farms neatly planted, and they waited until the harvest, and then came to attack and burn everything, just to make our life miserable.
there. And so they're a mixed up group of people, of Christians and of Muslims and of people of the traditional religion. Many of them do not know even the language. It's a kind of big cultural shock for many of these people. And they don't have the resources, their own personal resources, to adapt themselves to this situation.
The Arabs refuse to welcome us here. We are suffering. Our children are being killed, and our elders remain in the south, for they cannot move. Our cattle have been confiscated, and our houses burned down there. Arabs dislike Southerners because we are black. If there is real justice and democracy in this country, Southerners should also have the right to govern the Sudan.
The Arabs have had a tremendous program of public relations, of diplomacy, of making themselves known, even though they only make the world know one small aspect of the truth. And they have censored the exposure of the real truth to the whole world. But they have created a feeling that all is well, that there is freedom of religion in Sudan. There is no oppression, that slavery does not exist.
This apparent lack of awareness of the humanitarian plight on their doorstep seems to pervade many of the Arab communities living in Khartoum.
I really don't know a lot about war, because here in Khartoum we feel no war. So we're studying, as you can see. After we finish, we go home, play basketball, football. We just realize it on the news, that's all.
One of the greatest difficulties for the southern Sudanese taking refuge in Khartoum is employment. Skin color alone prevents integration of the southern tribes into Arab culture. Refused positions of authority at any level, the southern Sudanese are left to choose menial work or begging to earn a living for their families.
The government has a policy of Islamization and Arabization. Very few Christians are government employed. Another smaller number again are people employed in the factories, but as manual laborers. The majority depend on seasonal work or daily work which they get in the market, which just enough to get them sometimes something to live on for the day.
We are unemployed, have no food, no access to medical services. The situation is terrible. We go hungry. Please, you must make our voices heard so that things can change in the future.
I couldn't think of what to do to feed my children and buy clothes. I said, "My Lord, give me an idea." And so I began making crosses like this one. I gave it to people to sell at any price, and suddenly I had a job helping me to survive without begging. Sometimes I had less than 100 Sudanese dinars, but when I started making rosaries with patients, I found the means to survive. Whenever I do business in his name, I always earn something, but if I try anything else, I fail badly. When I go to bed in the evening, after returning from church, I think about my life and the responsibility I have. I hear a voice telling me, "Do not cry, my daughter. Tomorrow you will find a solution." Then, immediately, I wake up. I light a candle and start making a new design. For example, this one, which can be a souvenir. I do not have the means to open a shop to sell what I produce, because that requires a license and money. That's why I take everything to the priest in the church, who buys it to give as gifts. God is great. He is my father and brother, bigger than anything. He never gets angry with me, and I never give up with my business.
To give us a better understanding of the situation in Sudan today, I have the pleasure in welcoming to our studio Miss Christine de Coudray, who is the African expert for the International Catholic Charity Aid to the Church in Need. Christine, thank you for being with us and for joining us today in our studio. You have been to Sudan throughout the war, throughout the period of the war in Sudan. You've been visiting many times, and subsequent, you've been in contact with the bishops, and you are in contact with the bishops on a weekly basis. Is it realistic that this peace process can last?
It's true that this peace process is a gamble on the future. And once again, if the civilians are not involved in this peace process, it means that it will be a failure. And one can see, for instance, a deep Islamization, which is in process at the moment, because there are, for instance, associations coming from Saudi Arabia, spreading Islam, which has already decided in the 6 coming years to organize Islamization of the whole country from north to south through facilities like schools, health centers, formation of teachers, schools, roads, and so on. And of course, it is a genuine attraction for the Christians, and but there are strings attached to that. And it has to be taken into consideration what will be, which reply, which answer will be the answer of the Church facing this challenge of Islamizing the whole country.
And how can the Church answer this challenge?
Of course, the Church is in the heart of this peace process from the very beginning. We can see that just a little example, when even in the South, when you ask people, what is your religion? I'm a Christian. And even if they are not baptized, because they have seen so long the struggle, the daily struggle of the Church beside them, just to allow them for a new dignity, in a way, human dignity. And so they feel that they are all Christian on the way of their baptism. And that's why the Church today try to ask the government, what is your attitude? Are you ready to work in the sense of human dignity, equality of chance, everything which will allow this part of the country, considered today as second-class citizens, to take really their part in the future of this country as clear, genuine Sudanese with equality of rights. And it has been the role of the Church from the very beginning, and it still is today. And even the Church has accepted to be involved in this reconciliation process because they know how to talk.
In the Sudanese Charter of Human Rights from the government, a person in this charter is defined as a Muslim. Christians are infidels, and how can this question of equality of peoples be spoken about or talked about when you have this fundamental problem of inequality even within the Charter of Human Rights from the Sudanese government?
You know, I think that you have had the reply in your question. How can the Church keep hope in this field and in other fields when they see through the Constitution, through the attitude of the government, that they really want to keep the power for themselves? Do they want to share? In a way, not. They don't want. They want to really to be to keep the power and to impose their will to the southern part. So everything is done as if it was already organized for them in the 6 coming years before the referendum, which will ask the southerners to be independent or not. Everything will be organized for the government in order to hold all the posts which they haven't, and to keep the ones they have already. And that's, of course, a main issue, once again, proposed to the Church. How shall we work together? How shall we share with the Muslims? How shall we convince them to accept a major part in the country which have simply the right to exist as human beings?
I want to go into this question a little bit deeper about the fact of, in 6 years' time, there is to be a referendum designating whether the South is to become autonomous or not. But in light of the fact that oil, the majority of the oil is in the South, is it realistic? Will it be possible that the North will allow the South autonomy when you have the majority of the oil in the South?
No, once again, it won't be, you know. And it is a policy of the government of Sudan from the very beginning to keep the country unified. And not only because of oil, but because they need water too. You know, water of the Nile. where are the source of the Nile? They come from the south. So water, oil, and because, it's an Islamic country and all those people should become Muslims. It is really in the mentality, it is for the government of Sudan hardly understandable to accept this autonomy of this southern part, and not only for economic issues. It has to be clear.
The United Nations and NGOs, international NGOs, expected over the last year a flood of refugees coming back to their homes. But in reality, this has not happened. Why have not the refugees returned to their homes from the refugee camps?
So far, it's true that those displaced, mainly displaced people, displaced are the ones who have who stayed within the country. Refugees went abroad, and so far they have not started really to go back to their homeland. Maybe 500,000 in the first months of this year. Just because they have experienced that there were no facilities at all, and nothing had been done so far to make their coming back easier. Once again, there are no schools, no water, no health centers, no teachers, no houses. There is nothing. And one has the impression that nothing is really organized, with an exception. As I mentioned a while ago, it seems that at the same time, Islamic organizations will provide all what the displaced people are expecting in the south, and mainly to attract the Christians and those animists, just to invite them to join the big Muslim family.
Christianity has grown from 5% in the early 60s to now 70% in the year 2000 in Sudan. Can one say that the blood of the martyrs are the seeds of faith in this regard?
Yes, for sure. If not the church, who else could the people turn to?
And why did they turn to the church?
Just because they have experienced, once again, years long, that the only people close to them, beside them, able to protect them, to take their defense for their dignity, human rights, day after day, was the church. And I shouldn't mention only Catholic Church, but the Protestants too. Even if the Catholic Church seems to play a key role in this process, but all those populations who have been neglected in a sense that one cannot really imagine, all those people have been defended by the church day after day, and all those, mainly the bishops, going outside from the countries, trying to inform the rest of the international community about what's happening within the country. And they are really, this church, once again, is the voice of the voiceless. And that's why one can understand the reason why the percentage of Christians is growing so quickly.
I wanted to say, you too, you have been tireless in your efforts to communicate the situation of the church in Sudan, the people in Sudan. What would be now your appeal, your call to the international community for the church and the people in Sudan?
I would say we should all consider in our Western countries that the challenge which the church has to face in the Sudan is ours too. It is our own challenge too. It means, are we ready to help those populations to get human dignity, human rights, through many material aspects, of course, and to follow the church through different projects like formation of catechists, formation of future priests, formation of sisters, and building of chapels, of catechetical centers, of boreholes, of wells, and at least accepting to make exceptions in order for us to meet the expectations of the Church and not our own point of view. And I think it is so important for us in our countries to meet the expectations. And meet the expectations of the Church on the spot means listen to them. Shall we listen to them enough in order to answer the needs which they know much better than us? And in this field, are we ready to change our own priorities just because it is important for the future of this country in order one day to see all those people standing up and living together with the help, the main help, the essential help of the Church, which does its best in this field.
Christine, thank you for having been with us. Thank you also for your dedication to this country, this important situation, not only for Africa, but also for the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us on our program today, Where God Weeps. If you need to know more information, you'd like to find out more about Sudan, the situation of the Church in Sudan, I would encourage you to look at the contact information posted at the end of this program. And I look forward to seeing you next time on our program, Where God Weeps.